Hello everyone, my name's Tony. In today's video we're going to take a look at exactly how you can build your very own bottle terrarium. So first let's take a quick look at what we're going to need to make it. The first thing I'm going to use is just a small handful of lava stone. This will then be covered by window screen mesh. You can buy this at any good hardware store. For the main substrate layer I'll be using a small amount of aqua soil. Now you can find a £4 bag of this for around $18 online. I'll leave a link in the description. I'll also be using some coarse sand. Now this is just regular all-purpose sand. For the main hardscape I'll just be using some regular old rocks that I found outside by my driveway. Now the stars of the show are of course the mosses. Now this is U-leafed fork moss. It's a type of Fissidens. The leaf shape's really iconic. Let's take a closer look. Fissidens are one of my favourite moss types. They're easily identifiable by their distinctive two-ranked leaf structure. Other more common mosses that I've come across typically have a more spiral pattern to their leaves. The second moss we'll be using will be Dicranum Scorpaium, typically called mood moss or broom fork moss. This moss also has very distinctive leaves which sweep to one side. Before I put anything inside my terrarium containers, I always sanitize them with rubbing alcohol. So I just squirt a little bit in there, give it a swish around. A lot of my containers are used, so it's always best to do this because who knows where they've been or what's been inside there. So best to be safe. And even if they're new, I would do this anyway. Then just make sure you dry it off real well and let it air out for a few minutes. Just give it a good smell. If it smells like alcohol, just wait a bit longer. The next thing we're going to do is cut this piece of mesh to size, and to do that we're simply just going to put the bottle on top and cut round it with a craft knife. And the reason why I use this is to stop the soil falling down between the cracks of the bottom layer. It just really helps keep the layers separate so it looks a lot nicer. So the first thing going in is the lava stone. I'm just going to pop it in just like that, real easy. And there we go. The next thing we're going to add in is that piece of mesh. I'm just going to push it down with my wooden stick. Just give it a little push down, just make sure it's as flat as possible. And then slowly pour in your aqua soil. Whoops, a little slower than that. I'm just going to add a little bit more. And I'm just going to use my stick again, just to make a little hill. I want to ramp it up in the back, just to give a bit of depth. Before I add anything else, I usually give the soil a good spray down. This helps set it in place, so when you add hardscape materials it doesn't just move around. And I'm just going to clear off the glass with paper towel and tweezers, just so we can see what we're doing. So out of the rocks we had, I've picked out these three. I'm going to make some kind of 3-peak arrangement, try and fit them together as best I can. 3 is always a good number, it's actually my favourite number. So let's try and get these in there. Alright, so let's try and get these rocks in. So I'm just going to lower this in really carefully. And there's the first one. Alright, so same with the other two. This is the most tricky part actually, just getting these the way you want. My fingers are too big for this bottle, so I'm just going to have to get my stick again. So this smallest rock has an indentation, and this middle rock kind of sits in here real nice, so we'll try and replicate that inside here. Of course, if you're making your own, you don't have to use rocks like mine. You can use any type of rock you want, make any type of arrangement you want. This is just an example. This is just to give you some ideas and hopefully some inspiration to go out and make your own. Okay, so I'm happy with that now. It's just a 3-peak overhanging cliff design. Noticed how I pointed all the rocks in the same direction, helps give it a more dynamic feel. Just going to add in a few smaller pieces just to the front here. Not all rocks are the same size, so it's good to have a lot of variation. It helps give things a much more natural feel and also brings things into scale. So the more variation in size we add here, the more realistic this little scene will begin to look. So we're just going to pop in some sand to the front here carefully. As you can see when we add this, it suddenly makes it stand out a little bit more. It's no longer just 3 rocks in a jar, it's starting to look more like a realistic mountain. I think just one more for good luck. There, that should do it. Before we add his moss into his terrarium, we have a pretty important thing to do first. I'm just going to separate this out into a few clumps, then we're just going to shorten its length by just cutting off the brown part underneath. There's a lot of excess water in here, so I'm just going to squeeze it out. If you're worried about harming your moss, you really should have no worry. It doesn't have roots, you can chop it up into little pieces and it will regrow out of itself. So we're just shortening it here basically. All this brown growth, it's not actually dead, it's just old growth. It could actually regrow out of this. If you check my Instagram page, you'll actually see a few pictures of that and a lot more interesting mosses, so head over there and give me a follow at T-Fawcett Designs. Dicranum Scorpaium is an acrocarpous moss, which means it grows up instead of out. So another good reason to shorten it is because in no time it's going to be at the top of your terrarium, so you want to start as low as possible. It also won't help the mould situation. There's also a brown bit here, I'm just going to pull this off because we don't want any of that. So I'm just going to finish clipping the rest of these off. If you're enjoying the video so far, please subscribe to my channel, like this video and click that bell icon, it really helps me out, thanks a lot. I'm even going to take a tiny bit off the bottom of this Fissidens moss, not as much as the Dicranum because it's not actually browning, it's a little bit of dirt attached and some mushy looking rhizoids, so we'll just clip that off. Alright, so that's the moss prepared, let's get it in there. So these trimmed pieces of moss are a lot more fragile, so you've got to be careful, otherwise they'll just crumble to pieces. I'm just gently placing the moss between the tweezers. I'm just going to put it in there, round about where I want it. I'm going to use my trusty stick to push it down. A flat-ended stick is a real good tool to have instead of using tweezers because they tend to poke and pick it back out. So a flat-sided stick is a really great cheap tool for building terrariums. So in goes another piece, same thing. Just place it roundabouts where you want it, then grab your stick and use your stick to push it down into position. There we go. And moss is tough. Be firm with it, just not too firm of course. So next I'm going to put the Fissidens moss in. I'm going to pop it behind the mountain here, kinda looks like some trees growing. It's always a good idea to keep your taller mosses to the back and the shorter mosses to the front, just for viewing purposes. Just make sure it's firmly in place. I'm actually spreading out the leaves a little bit and pushing them against the stone in hopes that it will attach and start to grow up the mountain. Just another tiny piece of Dicranum behind these rocks here, I can see a bare gap. And what I'm going to do for this final piece is I'm going to trim it down even shorter still, just so the green tips are there. And I'm going to use it right in front of the other Dicranum where the brown is showing, just so the transition's nice and all we can see is beautiful green moss. And there we go, that should do it. So now we're finished building his terrarium, we just have to add some moisture in here for his moss. Just make sure everything's fully saturated, spray against the glass, it cleans it off as well. You don't need to go overboard, you don't want it swimming, too much water will actually work against us and cause mould. Just a quick wipe down again, and then we're ready for our springtails. I always like to add a few springtails in my terrariums if I remember to. They really do a fantastic job at cleaning up the mess in there, so I highly recommend getting some if you can. If not, it's totally optional, they just really help a lot. Just take a piece of charcoal here and just tap it on the glass and they all fall in. Just a few more there. Just going to grab one more small piece. Just a little tap. You can see him in there climbing up the mountain. Let's take a closer look. Our final step is to put the cork back in, and then our little world is complete. I hope you all enjoyed the video, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.